It's Mental Health Monday with Hope, a sanctuary where hearts can find solace. Together, we stand strong, united in our journey, discovering the strength within ourselves. Have no fear, for we're not alone.
Hey, we're live. Welcome to Mental Health Mondays with Hope. I'm Hope. Thank you for joining me this evening. In just a few seconds here, we're going to have Kendall come on over. And we're going to just chit chat. It's rapping with Kendall tonight.
Oh, yeah.
So
Funny.
we're going to talk.
Like you and Bugs Bunny.
Me and Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, funny. All right.
How you doing? Crazy weather. My son left the house and there was no rain at our house, and then he went about 3 miles away and got caught in a downpour.
Oh, okay. I'm here now. What's up?
So, I always start with a positive affirmation,
Uh-huh.
an I am statement.
See, if I say what I am right now is disappointing, because I'm disappointed with politics and the politicians and the way that the country is going.
Right.
So I think that's
But
I think that's causing a lot of stress.
yeah. So I like to make it a positive affirmation.
Well,
So what can you take out of that and make it positive? Because I always even out of the negative, we can always find a positive spin.
Another year and a half.
Okay. All right. Okay. But I feel, and tell me if I'm speaking for you, that a positive affirmation for you to turn that around, the whole political climate, is that you are very active and knowledgeable, and you speak your mind and try to educate others when it comes to politics.
Yeah, well, you already know that what we try to do here is a community. It's community based. It's all about the community.
Right.
Nothing about me.
Right.
This is all about the community.
Absolutely.
And what we can give and what we can offer and how we can help the community.
Right.
So what would I got a question for you? What would you consider mental health to be?
Oh, we do this one, and we do this question a lot.
No, we haven't done this question.
We haven't?
No, we have not.
What is mental health? So, it's mental health in general is just, a person's well-being, psychologically, emotionally, or lack thereof.
Now about behavior, where would they go under?
What do you mean?
Well, if a person is having issues, they may act out
Sure.
behavior.
Right.
All right. So that could also be part of mental illness.
Absolutely. And so, behavior is interesting because, there are some diagnoses that are very specifically behavior oriented, that are not a chemical diagnosis, like borderline personality disorder. It's not something you can medicate.
Like me.
You don't have borderline personality disorder.
I tell you, I heard people talking,
No, that would be schizophrenia.
Oh, okay.
And there is medication for that because that's an actual chemical diagnosis.
Well, postpartum depression. There was a woman recently.
Yes.
She took the lives of the 3 babies.
Allegedly.
No, she took the lives of the 3 babies.
Okay.
She didn't. Nobody ever said that she did not. There's no alleged. She took the lives.
Okay. All right. Well, then, yeah. There's the whole allegedly when it comes to her.
So what she's trying to say.
Wait.
She did it.
Oh. We're talking about something different. Sorry.
Because of the postpartum depression.
Mm-hmm.
And now her and her husband are trying to get her off.
Right. Okay. So sorry, I was thinking of a different case. So there's postpartum depression, which is very common. So think about, first of all, the female body. We have way more hormones than men. And that regulation of hormones is just a natural thing that happens on a regular basis, on a daily basis. So, when it comes to postpartum depression, it's really the change in the chemicals and the hormones during the pregnancy, and then the quick change after the pregnancy. But there's postpartum psychosis,
Mhm.
which is at a much higher level. And then the situations where individuals take the lives of their children or take their own lives after birth, that would be more of a psychosis, which is a huge chemical imbalance. And I don't know that, I'd have to do research. I don't know.
I don't know which one she's claiming, but
Yeah.
I thought it was postpartum. But
well, yeah, a lot of people just say postpartum. I mean, they used to call it the baby blues. And so that would be like postpartum depression. But when it goes to that next level of wanting to hurt yourself, your children, other people around you, that is more of a psychosis.
Yeah, but now when she actually did it, and she's trying to, is that an excuse for her to get off?
So think of psychosis in general and think of schizophrenia in general. When people are in that state, they may not have control. They don't have control. I remember being with a patient I was doing my internship in a geriatric psychiatric unit in Carbon County, and there were no adult non-geriatric units close by.
Right.
So an individual was brought in who was actively schizophrenic. He had stopped taking his medications,
Right.
and he's found running naked through the woods. And being the student, they call it Q15s, which is a 15-minute check. You have to write a note every 15 minutes. So when I was there, I'm the student, so I get that job. And I got to watch this patient go from, completely not having a clue about what he was doing, where he was, to then them after, oh gosh, it was easily, 10 to 14 days that they got him back on his medications and got him regulated to where he came back to who he was. And he had no clue.
So
he had no clue.
Part.
Well, I mean, everybody's different, and it depends on, like, they test different levels in your body.
You may call him having mental illness because of
sure
what he's.
I mean,
done,
he had a diagnosis.
You can only prove it, like the diagnosis is something that would take time. So let's say I'm the type of person you get into an argument with somebody, you get into this rage. I mean, where you can't see, and you act out and commit a crime. Would that be considered mental illness?
So back in the day, remember they used to call that a crime of passion.
Yeah.
So, and it varies. I mean, I feel that people have used that as, an excuse. I feel that people have committed crimes in that, that moment of rage where they had absolutely no idea what they were doing. And, I mean, that, is definitely related to mental health. And that would have to be something a psychiatrist, and also medical, like, testing different levels in their blood and see what actually hormone levels, chemical levels, and what got them to a point like that.
So to be normal, I guess you would look for something harmonious.
Right. And what is normal?
Well, I mean, I'm going to
no, but I mean, seriously, what is normal?
Well, I would say for the individual that you are in tune with yourself, that mentally you're in tune with yourself. You don't have a lot of stress. Things are going pretty much the way they're supposed to go in your life. It's very pretty much, like I said, harmonious.
Sure. But, stress is a constant.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone handles stress differently. I'm one of 7 children, and my mom, we range in age between my oldest brother to my youngest sisters that are twins. There's 11 years. So 7 kids in that 11-year time period. And, my mom would take us places, whether it was to the grocery store. We would go to the West End Fair, with just my mom and us kids. And she could handle it. But then, she shared stories with me where she's had women say, oh my gosh, I have these 2 kids and I'm stressed out all the time. So
don't mind me looking, I got to keep checking the time.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's all.
So, everybody.
I just want to thank the people because
yeah, go ahead.
Funny thing, I'm going to tell you something is that maybe during the show, you may not get a lot of views. See, they come and go.
Right.
Sometimes they'll pop up during that time period, but when the show is over with and I've kind of sent it out to everybody, all of a sudden I'm looking 79, 100, 200. 300,
Right,
and
right.
these people have tuned in. So I just
Sure.
want to thank those.
Yeah,
people.
absolutely.
That's all.
We
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
you watching Mental Health Mondays, but not just Mental Health Mondays, but all of the shows here on the PA Empowerment Network. And if you have not subscribed yet, please, it's free.
Yeah, it's free.
It's absolutely free. And we want to grow our subscribership.
Right.
We want to reach more people because, like Kendall said, this is community.
This is community. So also, if you guys you got a content that you want to hear about, you can always leave a comment. It's all good.
Absolutely.
Just leave a comment, and we'll respond to it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Let me get back to this.
Well, you and I were going to wrap last week, and then
we were not gonna wrap last week. Let me tell you guys something. So this is what she does. So this is her show.
I enjoy talking to you on my
this
show.
This is her show. And every time I turn around, she's trying to reel me in. I don't do the mental health thing. I am mental health.
But we all are, like you said. What's normal? I mean, what's normal?
Okay.
When we look at the spectrum, like really, what is normal?
That would be subjective.
Everything is subjective.
There's
nothing that's black and white. And when we go back to the politics,
because I
people
could be
try
a serial killer and feel fine.
You could. Look at Ted Bundy was a very charismatic gentleman, very well liked.
All throughout the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Nobody could believe it.
Nope.
So then you got to say, well, what is normal? So there has to be some set standard, some sort of standard that everybody kind of can fit into that standard.
Right. And I think with any standards, not just mental health, it really should be is what I am about to do, will that affect other people?
Now that's premeditated now.
Well, I mean, maybe not just that, but I'm just in general, if I, behave this way, normally, like when you say, harmonious, we try to live in a way where we are harmonious with those around us.
Right.
But, whether it's a mental health diagnosis, whether it is, like a Ted Bundy or something like that, that's not in that thought process. Narcissism. I mean, it is not in a narcissistic thought process.
Talking about the president. I don't have to say about the president. I wouldn't even talk about his name.
I wasn't even talking about. I did not bring him up.
Yeah, you sure did.
Listen, there are lots of narcissists in this world.
Well,
I was married to one,
Some power. That's the only one I know.
And you know what? Coming back from being in a narcissistic relationship is very difficult. So, we are
like the person has like total control over
well,
you,
no, I'm not. It just doesn't have total control, but it's just the way that they handle things is making it seem like they're the victim all the time. And,
so is
and
it
you're
like,
the bad guy.
let me say, I know some women that date these guys, go out with these guys, and the guys kind of move them away from their families. That's to me, that's a telltale sign.
Oh, absolutely.
And they try to separate them from their families. And then once they do that, it's like, you go out, where you going?
Yeah.
What time are you going to be back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
total control.
That may not be narcissistic, but that is control. That that's a power and control thing. That's abuse. That is definitely abuse.
Wouldn't that be a narcissistic?
It could be.
It
could actually be. But now, you brought up the president. I brought up narcissism.
Yeah,
think about anyone that's in a narcissistic relationship or left a narcissistic relationship, and they have to really kind of get back to who they were originally, and then also
you're really explaining this country because
I was getting there. Yeah, absolutely. When you're in a narcissistic relationship, you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
So in a sense, we all are in a narcissistic relationship at the moment, every one of us. And, it is a mental health issue for all of us. I mean,
would you say he has a mental health issue?
The American public,
I saw that look on your face.
The American public, let's say, okay, if we're going to talk about him, we're going to talk about him. So in the beginning, he might have done this that seemed cheeky, off color, whatever. And they're like, that's just him. Goes back to the boys will be boys, misogynistic philosophy in a patriarchal society. Don't get me going, Kendall.
Yeah, but then he decided to build the ballroom.
But then it goes more, and then it goes more, because a narcissistic individual will see how far they can push you.
24 karat gold.
They'll see how far they can push you and how much you're willing to accept. And then when you're finally not willing to accept it anymore, then they're the victim.
Well, that's what I tell you. I'm pissed off about what's going on right now and the way society is. I mean, I got a little age on me. I've been around a minute or two, right? So as my man Joe Madison would say, he used to say, I've been around, So to say that is that I've gone through a few presidents and none like this. I've never seen a country like this. I'm not kidding you.
I agree.
A country like this.
I agree.
It seems like we're headed towards a depression, and a lot of people are allowing it to happen by giving this man a go ahead to do whatever he wants to do. So, it's kind of messing me around.
Yeah.
I'm wondering. Like I said, I'm of a certain age, and prices are going up.
Yep.
That's really, really becoming a thing.
Yeah.
The mortgage, what do you call it? The taxes, the property taxes.
Well, and I mean, homelessness is
on the rise.
Absolutely.
Now, that's got to be mental. Those guys, you see a guy laying in the street. It's got to be. Some people say go to a shelter. I've heard that.
Yeah.
And then I've actually talked to some of them, and they won't go to a shelter because they're afraid to go to a shelter.
Yeah.
They'd rather lay out on the street than to go to a shelter.
And I think I've shared before that my uncle was basically a wanderer, and and was homeless, but he was a wanderer, and he would stay in those encampments. He would he would stay in Allentown, and from that area, and then we live up here in the Poconos. He would decide he wanted to come and visit my mom. It's my mom's brother. And he would just start walking from Allentown. And, if he got tired, he would crash in the woods. He would find an old shack, a barn, or whatever. And for him, when he was with us, he was great for a short period of time. He had a lot of social anxiety issues, and he couldn't be around people for extended periods of time. So, for him to stay confined, and it's kind of interesting because he had been in and out of jail almost his entire life, and but that was different because that was a routine that he didn't have to think about and that he just had to do. And when he had gotten older, he'd gotten sick, and he ended up going into a nursing home, and he had gotten kicked out of several nursing homes because he could not do that social interaction. He could not be in that, in that constant state, and until he got to a point where he was just kind of too weak and just kind of let it all go. And then he ended up passing away.
Live out here. I met him. His name was Keith. I'll keep his last name, but his name was Keith. But Keith had it was in the papers and everything. Keith he did like 15, 16 years, and then he got out of prison because he was very intelligent. He wrote some letters. This guy went because he cut a dude's head off. He decapitated him.
Okay.
So I'm gonna tell you, this guy, with me and him, it was like I was his brother, literally like family to me, right? Okay. Now, this guy, he had borrowed $5 from us, just $5, and he had promised to give it back on a certain date. He didn't have it. I'm not going to cry over $5, right? So he went out and robbed somebody, cut the dude up, so he can get the $5. And he said, "I will never be late with the money." You see what I mean? That's what I mean about mental health. But the dude was the sweetest guy you want to know.
Right. That kind of goes along a different line, a judgment line there. But I feel the same about my uncle. He would do anything for his family, and probably anything.
I understand that. I'm a wolf, so I'll do whatever it takes.
Absolutely. But because he had that that lack of moral content, you know, he probably would have done anything.
Yeah.
Like, you know, your friend cutting somebody up
Yeah.
because he didn't want to, he
didn't
didn't want to owe you
Yeah,
because you
my
had,
wife, actually.
well, because it was a respect thing between the two.
And we were like, wow, really? Come on, man. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think is there, make a comparison for me? PTSD and postpartum depression.
So PTSD is something that happens when, like, through a tragic event or over time of traumas over time. So or it could be just one big trauma like 9/11. I feel that we all have a bit of PTSD after 9/11. I feel that we have some PTSD after the pandemic.
You know, I worked down there, right?
Yeah, you've shared that before.
I worked down there. I was in the manhole down there,
right,
working in the phone company.
So that's
all over.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
So that's something with PTSD. It happens where the chemicals are kind of breaking down and not doing their job, you know, because they're constantly getting battered. Right. Whereas with postpartum depression, that's the hormones and the chemicals are being rushed around in a very short period of time. So, you know, that's a big difference between the two.
I know PTSD you can be medicated for. And the medication works. You know.
And it's because of the other symptoms of PTSD, you know, which
Such as?
Or, you know, being medicated. Well, there could be anxiety involved with PTSD. It could come with depression. It can come with paranoia. I mean, there's just a variety of different ways that it exhibits itself.
I didn't get paranoid, so I moved out here.
Well, I've heard of some of the things.
Here's funny.
I've heard some of the things that you've gone through living out here.
Hey, look, I lived in New York. We lived in New York. I was born and raised there. Right. Never really carried a firearm. Just never. I used to even tell my son, why do people carry a gun? I don't need to carry a gun here, you know. I moved out here. I think after about 2 months of living out here, I bought a firearm. Then I bought another firearm. And then I bought another firearm. After I saw the conditions of living out here, I just didn't want to be one of those guys that end up in the cornfield.
Yeah.
You know,
that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
When I was coaching basketball, and my son actually had a game, and it was in Moore Township, which is down like in Northampton County. Was it Moore Township? Bushkill, you know, it's past Wind Gap. But like to go from my house where I lived at the time in Kunkletown, you could go over, what is it called? Upper Smith Gap Road, I think. And that turns into a dirt road. But it's a quick shortcut, you know, to get to that school that we were going to play at. And the roads were clear. I mean, it was wintertime, but the roads were clear. And my son's coaches, that's, you know, my other black husband that I refer to. So I drove, and they followed, and we went over Smith Gap Road, and it's paved. And then all of a sudden it turns to, you know, to a dirt road, and it's twisty and turny and, you know, mountainous or hilly, whatever. But because people's driveways are going down hills and it was winter, somebody had chained their truck to a tree. So it wouldn't slide down the driveway. And to be a fly on the wall in their car, because boy, they let me have it when we got down to the school. And they're like, what are you doing? Taking us, like, to me, being the white girl, that didn't faze me at all. You know, because first of all, I traveled that road, you know, a lot, but, you know, it was definitely an experience for them. And they carry also. You've been asked to ask me a question.
Yeah. It's about cannabis.
Okay.
Do you think cannabis is actually working for people that have mental health issues?
So I have watched quite a few videos. Like one that I watched is with Parkinson's, and that's not necessarily mental health. It isn't mental health at all. And I've watched some of those videos, and the difference is amazing. And I mean, you know, go back to our history, you know, of before it was made illegal. And, you know, cannabis and just hemp and, you know, all the portions of the plants were used for different, therapeutic reasons, or clothing or ropes,
Well,
or,
it's in the Bible.
so I,
The word, you can look it up.
oh,
The
I'm
word
sure.
Cannabis.
Is
It's spelled
it?
with a K. It's in the Bible.
Okay.
We use it for anointing. Oils,
Okay.
to make the
Okay.
anointing oils.
Okay.
We use cannabis.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've seen it, a lot of people use it for anxiety, and, and it does help them. Even people who are on actual medications for anxiety, kind of, if they get to a point where it's getting a little bit too much, and and they smoke, and it helps out. And there's some people who feel like their anxiety isn't all that bad, or they're anti-medication, and and they use cannabis. I have no issues with it. I really don't.
I only asked that question that, just a little bit of politics. So that's one of the big questions that's on the board right now.
Right.
That's one of the questions for the candidates right
Yeah,
now. How do they
okay.
feel about legalizing cannabis in this state?
So, if we're going to talk political about that, again, I have no issues with it, and I never have. But when you look at legalizing it, how will that look? I talked to a gentleman when I was running for office who owns a smoke shop, and he had some really valid points. Was that are they going to do like they do with the LCB, with the the Liquor Control Board, where they only have X amount of licenses, permits that they sell?
Yeah, they're going to do that.
And so then the little guy, the mom and pop shops, won't get the license, because he was telling me about like the money that you had to put up front just to be considered. It's a huge, tremendous amount of money. So
let me ask, how much it costs to get a liquor license?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, it costs a lot.
I don't know. I know that he
lot.
was telling me that they had to even just like to be considered. I don't remember what it was for specifically. It might have been other state for cannabis. You had to just put down, it was like a retainer, $100,000 just to be considered.
I mean, but that's just business.
But see, that's the part of it where I disagree. Because they're going to make it legal, and the government's going to take it over. Just like getting your medical marijuana card, your insurance doesn't cover it because federally it's not approved. And you're going to the dispensary and you're spending, all this money. And I know individuals that I've spoken to who are still buying off the street. They've been buying from the same person for decades, and it's less expensive.
This is why I don't understand how is it going to affect the little moms and pop shop.
Because they're going to do the licensing for it, and then they're going to really crack down. They're going to crack down on people selling it off the street.
Yeah, you've been up to New York.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so almost every other bodega you can buy weed.
Well, yeah, because it's legal in New York.
No, it's not. It's legalized, but it's not legal to sell it.
Oh, okay, all right.
You got to have a license. Like you go to the store and just see a permit in the window,
right.
That they can sell it. And I'm telling you, it's like every other bodega or.
So what are they selling?
Marijuana.
Yeah. Okay.
Straight up marijuana. Huh. Yep.
I did not know that. It's not.
So this is why when you say about the licensing, I don't know if that's going to be a big issue.
Yeah.
I know when they first started with the dispensaries around here, they said for veterans, if you were a veteran, you can get that. You can get in there, you get a break.
Right.
So maybe that way again.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
Doesn't matter to me.
So there was something I wanted to kind of bring up mental health wise tonight. I had a conversation with a friend last night who has had tremendous loss in their life. Lost a child, lost a spouse. I think it was not expected. Either death.
Never expected.
Well, but if somebody's sick, if it, you know what I'm saying, if they had cancer or something like that, and or they're old, you're going to expect it's going to happen at some point. Yeah. But these were younger people, and lost a parent, lost an in-law, lost a sibling, and and yet this individual is still, at least in front of people, super happy person, or upbeat, and has a great energy and a great vibe. And
So wait, what kind of vibe you think I got?
I don't know. I always,
Am
you
I a
always
good
got,
vibe? Or?
yeah, I think, I
Right.
feel like you have a
So
good
I lost
vibe.
both my parents. I lost both my brothers. I have no siblings left.
Right.
You understand? I lost cousins. I lost my best friend that I had for over 50 years.
Yeah.
And we were tight. I lost him too. I'm still here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think of a student that went to school with my son. I call this person my mini me, and lost the father, lost, you know, grandparents. The mother actually moved, and this student wanted to stay here and, you know, graduate from school, and was then considered homeless, bouncing, you know, from sofa to sofa.
They
And
don't call
again,
they don't call that homeless anymore.
no, well,
No, that's considered unhoused.
oh, unhoused. My bad.
Yeah.
My bad. Unhoused. And, you know, lost other family members, lost friends. And this individual has more than a master's degree. There's like a physician's assistant now.
Right.
And you know what? And it just made me think. And the demeanor of this individual has always been like, I've never seen that individual like fall into a depression of what we would think. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I think some people do it in private. Like, you know, the individual, my friend that
are just strong like that.
My friend that I talked to last night.
Some people are really weak.
Well,
and this is when they got to go to counseling,
right?
Do all of these things because they can't mentally handle what's going on.
Well, and I think it's important, like, you know, with grief, that we do speak to someone about it, because you know, internalizing can be more difficult for our mental health.
I tell you, I've seen so much death, and I have not much feeling for it at all. I'm almost like remorse. I have no feeling,
right?
Remorse, none.
Right.
You know.
And I think of the you know,
my two dogs. Both my dogs died.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of other people, you know, that I've talked to that have witnessed deaths and have lost loved ones or what have you, and you know, use that as a little bit of a crutch too. And you know, and that is, you know, that does, I think it does become a strength.
My mother died in my arms. Okay, you know what she did as she was dying? She saluted me, because she always called me a good soldier.
Right.
My brother, he had AIDS. He died, right, in hospice, in my arms. Okay, my dog Serenity, she was dying. She had Lyme disease. She died in my arms. I've seen a lot of death.
Yeah. And I think that might be the difference. You know, I'm a hospice social worker, so obviously I'm around, you know, death a lot. And you know, people ask me all the time, you know, how can you do that? You know, I'm like, people die all the time. How can you do that?
Die. You ever hear that commercial? I'm gonna die.
Everybody's gonna die. But it, you know, the one thing that I've always said about it or felt about it is that it's an honor for me, a privilege for me to be part of that process with the individual and with the family, and to help them transition through that. And, you know, some of the Native American cultures, or, you know, Native cultures, call that a death walker, because, you know, you're invested in the emotion and the soul, in, you know, what's going to transpire after. Is this person going to pass peacefully? Has their life been complete? And I feel like individuals like you, individuals like my friend that I talked to, you know, last night, is that there are some people that are death walkers, and other people who are, you know, just can't handle death.
In other cultures, not just our culture, but also in other cultures, people, they think differently about
Oh,
death.
absolutely.
Like when my father, when he died, so we consider that transitioning.
Right.
You see, so in some other cultures, it's different. It's like death is not the end of the end of it.
Right.
So now you transition to something else.
Right.
So some people believe in reincarnation.
Right.
Right.
Right. And you know, and I don't even know. I mean, if that is just a white culture thing, I don't know, because, you know, a lot of different cultures, Native American cultures.
Well, I think the Europeans were the only ones that buried their dead. If you think about it, everybody else by fire.
Right. And you
even
know,
the Vikings by fire.
Right. And I think, you know, in our society, and I'm just saying in white society, or
You know, white is
European, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Society.
Let's get it right. That's
right.
a social construct.
You're right.
Okay,
You're right.
So we got to talk
European.
The
Yes.
ancestors from European.
Right.
What
Exactly.
they used to do. Okay.
Exactly. It's almost like it's taboo to talk about death, you know, and to visit the thought of your own mortality, of the mortality of others, and death is something that people fear, you know, and that maybe, you know, you don't talk about, like, you know, your own death, you know, and you know, we're all invincible when we're young.
You know, it's funny you should say that, because the Europeans, they were very much like conquerors, man. Went from one town to another, conquer, burn, pillage.
Well,
rape.
yeah, because they're invincible.
So I don't understand how they could be afraid of death.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, you're talking about in the war sense. I mean, like in the, like, losing a parent sense, losing a loved one sense, you know, in just general society, not war society.
Well, I learned to grieve, but I learned to also smile, because they're transitioning.
Right.
This is not the end. You know, it's not the end. And as long as some people believe too, as long as you talk about them, they're always
absolutely alive. And absolutely. And that's one of the things that
you got pictures of them.
Right. And that's one of the things
living.
when I guide my families that I work with is, you know, how are you going to include them in festivities? You know, they talk about the year of firsts when someone passes away. And, you know, when they talk about that, they need to really explain it better. The year of firsts just means the first time something is happening without that individual being there. Some people were under the misrepresentation that your grief goes away after a year. And that's not true.
You
and
know, people are still grieving over Michael Jackson.
Well, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, and it's like,
he's like immortal.
You know me, and I'm like a huge Prince fan.
Yeah, even Prince.
And, you know, and that still breaks my heart, you know, because you think of what that person could have continued to contribute.
And this is why I say they never truly like die. They're always here.
Right.
They're always here for you. Always here.
Right.
You can pick up a record. You can play their music. You can hear them. So the same with a family member, you got their photograph. You know, with my mother, I kept her answering machine. She had an answer back then.
Yep.
She had actual machines,
right,
that recorded, right? And I would play this thing over and over again just so I could hear my mother's voice.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I saved a voicemail. I lost my best friend a couple of years ago to lung cancer. And I saved a voicemail that she sent me probably like a week or so before she passed away. And, you know, what happens, you know, before death sometimes is that you'll kind of have,
you get ready to take over, because I'm getting ready to go downstairs to get something to eat. The brother's starving.
What time is it?
You got 37. It's 37 minutes in.
You're hungry?
What am I supposed to not eat? You still got 29 minutes to go. No, let me get it correct. 23 minutes. Okay. 23 minutes.
What am I gonna do without you?
No, I think you can handle it. So you guys, thank you very much. My name is Kendall. I'm the producer, whatever. And she drags me on the show. He drags me on the show. But tomorrow you can tune into politics, and we can get into some politics with myself and Mr. Ronald Gates. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna say peace, and you guys enjoy her. She has a lot to talk about.
I don't know. Crickets, man.
Oh, stop.
I'm going to go crickets now.
Stop. Just pick up where you left off.
But it's not the same.
You're a professional. Stop.
You know I love Kendall. Kendall's the man. Okay. So, yes, he left me. So, he left me. What am I going to do? I told everybody it was going to be Hope and Kendall rapping tonight, and we rapped for about half an hour. But that's okay. So what were we talking about? We were talking about grief. Kendall always has great questions. He wants me to diagnose everybody, and I cannot diagnose. That's not what I do. We talk about mental health. If there's anything topic-wise that, you know, you want us to discuss, doesn't have to be Kendall and I, but, you know, anything on Mental Health Mondays, just drop us a note, and we can find an expert to talk with us on that topic, or there might be something you want to talk about with me. You actually don't have to be here in the studio with me. It's something that just, Kendall and I enjoy doing together, because we work well together in the same vicinity. But if you'd like to be on the show and talk about anything, we can do it remotely with you, and we can talk about, whatever you would like to talk about. If there's something that you've gone through, something that you have expertise in, let's talk about that. I would like to talk with someone about grief. I mean, obviously it's the field that I am in, but I'd like to have somebody on the show that's willing to open up and talk about how they've dealt with tremendous grief. I mean, and tremendous grief can be like the individuals that I was just talking about who have lost multiple people in their lives, or it can be just one person that you've lost. It could be your spouse, a sibling, a parent. I lost my best friend, and I still include her in a lot of things that I do, and I try to keep her memory alive, by talking about her and by sharing things from the past that her and I did, or what have you. And I have to say, we talk about the year of firsts when it comes to grief, but grief goes beyond that first year. That first year is just trying to help you take a look at how it's going to be different for you when that individual is no longer there. And depending on when you lost that individual, that first experience without them here, you might still be in a daze. So it might be the second year. If you lost someone around the holidays, that first holiday, you might not even really be thinking about it too much because it's still so fresh, and you're surrounded by a bunch of people who are trying to make sure that you're okay, that you're not thinking about it, and that it could be the next year where where it's a little bit more difficult for you. How's dinner, Kendall?
Friends.
Oh, you didn't bring me any.
The funny thing is, my sister-in-law got the shrimps. She gave enough to my wife, but only for one person.
Oh.
So she gave me a couple of shrimps.
Gotcha. Well, I'm pretty stingy with the shrimp myself.
Yeah, I'm not stingy with the shrimp, but I ain't got no more.
But so what we were talking about before, Kendall was talking about a case of postpartum depression where an individual ended up taking the lives of their children. I thought we were talking about a different case. There's a case where they're trying to say it was postpartum, but it's possibly like the spouse, the husband murdered the wife and the children. So that's the one I thought we were talking about. And in
this one was with the wife, killed the 3 children.
Right.
She took their lives.
Yeah, but she's still alive.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
They're still going through.
Right. Well, the one I was,
right
the one I was referring to was about, where the woman was also killed. And they're trying to say that I guess she took her own life, supposedly, allegedly. But I decided to wear my PA Empowerment Network hat tonight. And, it's kind of funny because I had my hair up in a ponytail all day. So, I put the hat on, and then I put the hat down. I mean, my hair down. And it's funny, like I'm like a total 80s chick. And when I had my hair down, it reminded me of Wayne from Wayne's World. So I decided to get the ponytail up. But this is just to remind everybody who we are. We are the PA Empowerment Network. We have some great shows on here, not just me on Mondays. It's Mental Health Mondays. But Kendall does the empowerment show, and then he has Politricks, and we have a couple other shows on here. So go ahead, and I'm asking Kendall to put a reminder up to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, and it is free. What do you know what our subscribership is right now, Kendall?
I think it's 860.
All right, so we're trying to get that up to 1,000. And you can help us by subscribing and also by sharing. Check out all of our videos. So our videos, if you can't catch us live, our videos stay up on our YouTube channel, and you can scroll through and you can watch all of them from the past. You can do it by most recent. You can do it by most viewed, and just kind of scroll down and watch everything that we do here on the PA Empowerment Network. Last week we've had some, I've been on a little over a year now, and we've had some great shows over the last year. And last week we talked a lot about women and healthcare providers, and how women, when they give their symptoms, are not, always taken seriously by the providers. And Jeanette, our nurse friend, Jeanette Michaels, was on with us last week, and she gave some good suggestions of what we can do when we're with the provider and we're feeling like we're not being heard. So go ahead and check out last week's show. And one of the topics that we did not get to was menopause. So now we're going to talk a little bit about menopause. Back in the day, menopause, when they talked about it, it was pretty much that you stopped menstruating. You might get crabby, and or you might get emotional and cry a lot, and you might gain weight. And that was really all that was talked about. But we talked earlier about the amount of different hormones in the female body is tremendous. And anytime one is out of regulation, which happens very frequently, by the moon. I mean, the gravitational pull of the moon. You think we're joking, like when we say things like that? This is all very, very true. And they're finding so many things now with menopause that were overlooked before. And there, are people now that are starting to specialize in menopause, gynecologists that are starting to specialize in menopause, because there are so many things that people are learning that that are directly related to menopause. And there are some individuals that take hormones after menopause or perimenopausal, and they're learning that the hormones are affecting their body and giving different symptoms throughout their body: fatigue symptoms, swelling, achy joints, and different things are being looked into to see, hey, what's causing all of this? And it's the hormone replacement therapy. So it's a topic that needs to be discussed by more than just me. There's a guest that I've been trying to get on the show to talk about it, just because of the person, she's been experiencing all this. And when she goes down a rabbit hole and learns everything that she can, she's very, very knowledgeable. But she's shy about coming on the air. And I just don't understand that, because all she has to do is sit in front of her camera. So, if you want to come on and talk about menopause, let's go ahead and do it. And the guy should watch. Poor Kendall, he gets to hear this all the time. But you know what? But that's what it is to be. Oh, thank you. Wait. I don't know if my sister, she just texted me. So I don't know if she was saying that she liked the color of the shirt that I'm wearing right now, or if she liked the color of the shirt that I was wearing in a picture. But thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So people text me during the show and they kind of say, hey, you should talk about this, or you should talk about that. I'm just going to read that. Oh, wait, see something about nursing homes. Did you? Oh, okay. See, I have chickens and and pigs and animals. And somebody actually just texted me that there was a chicken that has been roaming around. It's not mine. And actually my son saw it. So I may have to, when I leave here, go see if I can round up a chicken. I do want to talk about my injury and why I took a couple weeks off from the show. Because it, even though it was physical, it was very mental, much mental for me. So, I have rescued pigs. I have 2 rescued pigs. They're mini pigs. My mini pig weighs about 160, 170 pounds. And he's like a brownish color. And as his tusks grew in, he looked like a warthog. So I thought he looked so cute, and I let his tusks go. And that was mistake number 1 on my part, because when pigs are with other pigs, it's natural for them, if another pig is annoying them, to just kind of swipe their head like that and get them like with their tusks, just to push them out of the way. Now, pigs have very thick skin, so unless they're being super aggressive fighting, that poke with a tusk is just to let go away, leave me alone. I startled my pig. He was on the front porch, and I startled him. He was getting into something, and I startled him, and he swiped his head. And because his head was down close to the floor of the porch, when he swiped his head over, he actually caught me with his tusk, and he caught me in the shin, right off to the inside of my shin. And at first I didn't think anything of it. And then, he backed out of there, and I took a step back, and I saw there was, blood in my sneaker. And I'm like, oh boy. It was pretty gnarly. I got a pretty gnarly scar now, but
What does that mean? Gnarly.
gnarly,
Yeah,
like
what is
it's a little bit grotesque looking. Like, it's when you think of having a surgery, like I had surgery, I broke my wrist and I had surgery. Then I have titanium. So I sing that song, I Am Titanium.
I always hear people say that on television.
Oh, it's just gnarly looking. It's like, think of gnarled. Well, think of gnarled fingers, like somebody that has like arthritis in their fingers and they're like all gnarly.
How about FUBAR?
FUBAR? Yeah. Well, it's not as bad as a FUBAR, but it is gnarly, because it's not a straight line. I got gouged by a pig's tusk. So, it was a fun day in the ER. The hospital staff, they said it was one for the books for them. They had never had anyone in there that had been gored by a pig before. And but the way it became more of a mental health issue for me was the first thing I had to tell myself was that it was an accident. My pig wasn't being aggressive. He was startled. He wasn't chasing me. He wasn't trying to hurt me. So when I got back home from the ER, which I did not drive because I have a vasovagal response to things like that. So, I had to keep myself from going unconscious several times. So that part was, was pretty intense. But when I got out of the car, when I got home, my pig came running down the driveway at me, and I knew he was just coming to greet me. But for that split second, there was a little bit of anxiety on my part because of what had just happened. And that was something that I had to work with, to put aside, because, I knew that he didn't do it on purpose. And pigs are very, intelligent. And he knew that, as soon as it happened, that he hurt me. And, in pig body language, he was very apologetic. But there was, just a split second, not just that day, but, for the next week or 2 weeks, that I was a little apprehensive when I was around my pig. He did some serious damage. It was, it was quite wide because he gouged me, and it was deep. It went, not down to the bone, but, it did look like a lobster tail. So, it was definitely something that when I think about what it looked like and what he's capable of, that I did have a little bit of apprehension and anxiety. And, an animal can feel that, especially a pig. They're very they're very emotionally in tune with people. So when we talk about like, mental health, when we talk about people who have been possibly like in an abusive relationship, and we talk about, we were talking earlier about, someone who was in a narcissistic relationship, that anxiety you have, even if it's just for a split second, um, I was able to recognize it because, this was a different situation. I was able to recognize it for what it was and rationalize it, not bury it, but rationalize it. He didn't mean to hurt me. And now that sounds like, something that someone might say who is in an abusive relationship. And that does happen, where they make excuses for the individual. And, I wasn't making excuses for the pig. He did hurt me. He knew he hurt me, but it was not intentional. It was not, out of anger. I startled him. So, it's like if you startle someone when they're sleeping and their first reaction is to strike, that's not abuse. That is, that's a reactionary response. I've done it if somebody sneaks up on me. That's a reactionary response that some people might have. But that bit of anxiety over, something traumatic just happened to me, and it was affecting me on an anxiety level. But also, in general, there was I had a rough couple weeks. I just kind of escaped into myself and just allowed myself, because sometimes I'm one of those people that, if things are like too heavy, I just need to retract to conserve my mental energy and just focus it on me. So I needed my mental energy to heal because, I was put on antibiotics, which I don't do well with. Most people don't. But then, it was infected. So they had to put me on a stronger antibiotic. So, which again, I don't do well with antibiotics. I get just funky symptoms, but I'm sure a lot of people do. So I had to conserve a lot of my energy to heal myself, which then causes anxiety for me because then I shut the world out, and and people aren't used to me doing that. And that is a self-preservation tactic for me when things get heavy, where I know that I can do better and just, send someone a text back and say, hey, I need a minute. I need some time here because I'm healing, whether it's, physical or mental. But for me, I was actually by myself when it happened. My son lives with me and he was on vacation. And I sat my phone down when I came in the house, and I didn't remember where I put it because, again, like I said, I have a vasovagal response, which basically means that I almost pass out if I do pass out, which is kind of funny because I can see blood injuries, anything like that with other people, but it's, something then with me that starts to shut down, that the vagus nerve. And I couldn't remember where I put my phone. And when that happens with the vasovagal response, is like your blood pressure would drop, your heart rate drops. So that means your oxygenation is less and it causes confusion. And I couldn't remember where I put my phone. So it took me about 45 minutes to where I was well enough, because I'd almost passed out several times of like getting up and trying to look for my phone, to where I found my phone and then was able to call somebody. So with that, I mean, I'm, a fairly young woman, as Kendall will say. I mean, I'm 59 and I'm fit. And, but for that 45 minutes, I tried to, remain as cognitively intact as possible. And because I knew there wasn't an artery involved, so I was good there. I don't know what I would have done if there was an artery involved. I would have just crawled until I found my phone. I don't know. But the mental health aspect of it for me was, which I think like older people start to think about who live alone. I'm by myself, and and I had no other means of, what am I going to do here? So it gave me a lot to think about. I had some great input from other people, get like an Apple Watch, and something like that. So where I never lose contact with anybody. I go outside and I do stupid things. What can I say? I have animals, I cut down trees, and always having that ability to call someone, which made me think of sharing that with all of you. So we can share that. We can think about our neighbors and think about our loved ones who live by themselves. They don't have to necessarily be older, but they look at it differently. And, older individuals look at it differently because they think, what if I fall and I can't get to the phone? So, which again, can cause some anxiety. So we need to take care of our people. But I'm glad to be back with you guys. And we'll be back next Monday with another new show. Everybody have a great week.
It's Mental Health Monday with Hope, a sanctuary where hearts can find solace. Together, we stand strong, united in our journey, discovering the strength within ourselves. Have no fear, for we're not alone.